Teachers who were important to me, teachers who kind of pushed me in the right direction. You know, when I was a ninth grader, I was a knucklehead. I was like a real knucklehead. I had a penchant for like going into class and just being disruptive and making jokes at what the teacher was saying, laughing with my friends. But I had a biology teacher. Her name was Mrs. Hayward, and she was so kind and generous that whenever I went into her class, I just couldn't get the nerve up to be a distraction. So I would just sit at my desk and draw. And I did a lot of graffiti back then, so I was always drawing characters and letters and stuff. And, you know, she'd come over after class and say, you know, she'd look at my artwork and give me feedback and say, you got a talent. And I would say, thank you. She said, why don't you apply some of that talent to biology, you know? So you just sit here and draw, you don't connect with anything, you know? And I was like, you know, I had a bunch of stuff going on, so I would be like, you know, Miss Hayward, I like you and everything, so I don't want to make any noise in your class. So I just do this, you know? And she'd always just talk to me. Even though I wasn't paying attention, she would always kind of talk to me. You know, my other teachers were like, they couldn't wait for class to be over to get rid of me, or they would try to keep me out of class or whatever. But anyway, you know, I had to drop out of school at a young age and go work. And one day I was taking the bus to work, and I saw Mrs. Hayward on the bus. And this was a couple years later, and she recognized me, and I recognized her. And she said, "What are you up to?" I said, I got to work. I got to help out at home, you know, and take care of myself. And she said, "Well, you know, if that's what's right for you right now, do that. But, you know," she said, don't forget about your education. You know, she said, it's important. So you're smart. You're a smart kid. Don't forget about it." And that stuck with me. And a few years later, I went back and got my high school diploma. And the school I went to was like a second chance school. And at that school, I met two guidance counselors, Mr. Harris and Mr. Marquet. And these guys were amazing because there must have been like 150 students there. And these two gentlemen knew every student's name. They called every student by name walking down the hall. I'll never forget that. And by that time, I was like, you know, I was gung-ho, committed. Like, I got to get my degree. I got to get my life on track. What am I doing? And I was like, I remember just saying, Mr. Marquet, if I ever become a professional anything, I'm going to make sure I remember everybody's name. And he would say, why? I say, because you know how good it feels when somebody remembers who you are in your name, right? And, you know, just to kind of condense everything, right? I ended up graduating. I got my diploma. These guys gave me recommendations so I can go to college, all this good stuff. And I was working in corporate America, and I'm like, I got to get out of here. This is crazy. I'm just a number. I want to do something meaningful with my life, and I wanted to become an educator. And I just reached back out to Mr. Harris and Mr. Marquet, and I was able to find Mr. Marquet. And he just started talking to me about how to become an educator, what steps to take, you know, how to give back to young people. And, you know, he met with me several times to like put me on the track to do this. And he said, you know, go get a master's degree, go do this and that. And, you know, all this it was just synchronicity, you know, it just started all to come together. You know, my wife had encouraged me to, instead of going to school for business, which was all my experience at that point, she said, go to school for what you love, which is English and writing and reading. And then Mr. Marquet just gave me that solid advice. And I know a lot of people, because when I'm talking to young people who just came out of high school, I hear horror stories. You know, they don't have a favorite teacher. They don't have a teacher that inspired them and moved them. And so I feel so blessed and fortunate to, along the way, have had all these people. You know, and when I was working on my bachelor's degree, I had a creative writing professor who said to me, you can never really define it, she said, but you have it, go study writing. And I'll never forget that, you know. And even though this poet I'm about to mention, his name is Phil Levine. Maybe you know the wonderful poet Philip Levine, right? What Work Is, They Feed They Lion. I had the opportunity to really get to talk to him while I was in graduate school doing my creative writing degree. And he said something to me that someone said to him. You know, he studied with a lot of great poets, and he said, a great poet told me that when somebody tells you you're good, believe them. You know? And I said, that stuck with me. And, you know, he said, you're good, okay? Believe that. And he said some other things, but that one stuck with me, so that when I was working in graduate school, I had a bunch of wonderful mentors, but the two mentors from graduate school that stick out to me because of the way they transformed the way I think about writing. One is Aracelis Girmay, whom you know everyone knows, her wonderful books Teeth, Kingdom Animalia, and The Black Maria. And the other is Ross Gay. Again, everybody knows his wonderful books, you know, Bringing the Shuffle Down, you know, more recently, Catalog of Unabashed Gratitude, and the Book of Delights, right? And he's got a new book coming up. And they changed the way I thought about writing at that time in my life. You know, I had thought so much about writing as the opportunity to always be saying something, saying something, as opposed to interrogating, right? As opposed to questioning, right? Exploring and kind of, you know, being or living with something. And that, to me, that was just transformative. Not just the way I write, but the way I look at art in the world in general. So they, you know, they and their work, obviously. Right? But I often also say that it's always unfair to single people out because, you know, there's some people who may have done things for you behind the scenes that you never saw, that paved the way for you, you know? So to those unacknowledged or folks who, because there are people who do things and they don't want to necessarily be acknowledged, I will also give props to those folks because I may never know who they are, but I appreciate everything they do.